My name's Rachel Carter. 3 weeks ago, my sister tried to blow up my whole life at Sunday dinner. No joke. She stood up in front of my husband, my parents, my cousins, everybody, and slid her phone across the table. Then she looked at Ethan and said, "You deserve to hear the truth." The room got dead quiet. My husband picked up the phone, hit play, and suddenly my voice was echoing through the dining room. My sister had secretly recorded me. She thought that recording was going to end my marriage. She thought Ethan would walk out that night. She thought she'd finally prove I wasn't the person everyone believed I was. And for a few seconds, it looked like she was right. Nobody said a word. Nobody moved. Everybody just stared at me, exactly the way she'd planned. What Ashley didn't know was that I'd found out about her little setup almost 2 weeks earlier, and while she was busy getting ready to expose me, I was uncovering a secret she'd spent years trying to bury. A secret so big, by the end of that dinner, nobody was talking about my marriage anymore. They were talking about hers. And trust me, she never saw it coming. Looking back now, I should have seen it way earlier. Ashley didn't wake up one day and decide to ruin my life. She'd been competing with me for as long as I could remember. Growing up, if I got a compliment, she needed two. If I made the team, she needed to be captain. If somebody paid attention to me for 5 minutes, she'd find a way to pull the spotlight back onto herself. My mom used to call it sibling rivalry. I used to believe that. Now, I know better, because rivalry ends when you grow up. What Ashley felt never did. When I married Ethan 4 years ago, I honestly thought things were finally changing. For a while, they actually seemed okay. She smiled in photos, showed up to family events, bought birthday gifts, played the role of supportive sister. But every now and then, the mask slipped. Little comments, tiny digs, the kind people could laugh off if they wanted to. Wow, Rachel really got lucky with Ethan. Most guys wouldn't put up with her attitude. You're a patient man, Ethan. Everybody laughed, including Ethan. I laughed too, mostly because I didn't want drama. But Ashley always smiled a little too hard after those jokes. Like she was testing something. Like she was seeing how far she could push before somebody noticed. Then there was the way she acted around my husband. Nothing obvious, nothing that would make you call her out. Just weird. She'd text him memes instead of sending them to the family group. She'd ask his opinion on things she never cared about before. She'd always find a reason to sit next to him at family dinners. And every time I mentioned it, people acted like I was overthinking. Maybe I was. At least that's what I kept telling myself, until the rumors started. And that's when everything changed. The first rumor showed up at a family barbecue. Nothing major, at least not at first. My cousin Lauren pulled me aside while everybody else was hanging out by the grill. She looked uncomfortable, like she wasn't sure if she should even ask. Finally she said, "Are you and Ethan doing okay?" I laughed. "Yeah, why?" And Lauren hesitated. Then she shrugged. I don't know. Ashley said you guys have been fighting a lot lately." My smile disappeared because we hadn't. Not even close. In fact, Ethan and I had just gotten back from a weekend trip 3 days earlier. We were doing great. I figured it was probably a misunderstanding. Then it happened again. And again and again. Different people, different stories. Same source, Ashley. Apparently I was controlling. Apparently Ethan was unhappy. Apparently our marriage was hanging by a thread. Apparently I had anger issues. Every rumor somehow traced back to my sister. And every time I confronted her, she acted shocked. "Seriously? That's what people are saying?" Then she'd shake her head. "Do people love drama?" The crazy part? She always looked believable. That's what made her dangerous. Ashley never told outright lies. She planted little seeds, tiny doubts, just enough to make people wonder. And once people start wondering, they start watching. I noticed it at family dinners. People studying me when they thought I wasn't looking. People paying extra attention whenever Ethan and I disagreed about something. People waiting for evidence that Ashley was right. Then, one Friday night, Ethan and I got into the smallest argument imaginable. Nothing serious. We disagreed about whether to replace our old couch. 10 minutes later it was over. Problem solved. The next afternoon my mother called. "Honey, are things okay between you and Ethan?" My stomach dropped. Because there was only one person who knew about that conversation. One person, Ashley. And that's when I started wondering something. How was she getting information nobody should have had? The answer scared me more than the rumors ever did. Once that thought got stuck in my head, I couldn't let it go. For the first time, I stopped brushing things off. I stopped making excuses for Ashley. And I started paying attention, really paying attention. The next few weeks were eye-opening. Every private conversation somehow ended up becoming public knowledge. If I told Ashley something on Monday, somebody else seemed to know it by Friday. It didn't matter what it was. Money, work, marriage, family plans. Nothing stayed private. At first, I thought maybe she was just gossiping. Then something happened that changed everything. One Saturday afternoon, Ethan and I were sitting in our kitchen talking about a job offer. A big one. The kind of opportunity that could completely change our future. We hadn't told anyone. Not my parents. Not our friends. Not even social media. Nobody. The next day, we showed up for Sunday dinner. Ashley was already there. The second we walked through the door, she smiled. That same smile she always wore when she knew something she wasn't supposed to know. Then she looked at Ethan and said, "So, you thinking about taking that new job?" My heart stopped. For a second, I honestly couldn't breathe. Ethan looked at me. I looked at him. Neither of us had told her. Not a single word. Ashley immediately realized she'd slipped. Her smile vanished, just for a second. Then she recovered. I just guessed. Nobody bought it, especially me, because there was no way to guess that. Not that specifically. Not that accurately. Something wasn't right. On the drive home, I couldn't stop thinking about it. Ashley wasn't lucky. She wasn't psychic. And she definitely wasn't guessing. Somehow, some way, she was listening. I just didn't know how yet, but I was about to find out. And when I did, everything finally started making sense. Part 5, the day I found proof. 3 days later, Ashley accidentally left her tablet at my house. At least that's what she told me. She called around noon. "Hey, I think I left my tablet there. Can you hold on to it? I'll grab it after work." "No problem." I tossed it onto the kitchen counter and went back to answering emails. That should have been the end of it. But around 4 o'clock, Ethan texted me. My phone was almost dead. I remembered Ashley's tablet sitting on the counter. I figured I'd use it to send him a quick message. Nothing weird, nothing sneaky, just convenient. The screen lit up, and that's when I noticed something strange. The tablet wasn't locked. Not only that, one app was already open, a cloud storage app. At first I ignored it. Then a folder name caught my eye. Proof. All caps, just sitting there, front and center. My stomach tightened. Maybe it was work stuff. Maybe it was random documents. Maybe I should have minded my business. But something told me not to look away. So I opened it, and instantly wished I hadn't. The folder contained dozens of files. Audio files, video files, screenshots, dates, labels, notes, everything organized, everything categorized. And almost every file had one thing in common. Me, my name, my conversations, my life. My hands started shaking. I clicked one recording. A familiar voice filled the room. Mine. I was sitting in my own living room talking to Ethan. A private conversation from weeks earlier. A conversation nobody else should have heard. Yet somehow Ashley had it recorded. I clicked another file. Then another. Then another. Every single one was private. Every single one had been collected without my knowledge. Without my permission, without my consent, for months, maybe longer. The worst part? Ashley wasn't collecting memories. She was building a case, like a prosecutor preparing for trial. Every joke, every disagreement, every frustrated moment, everything was being saved, twisted, stored away, waiting for the perfect time to use. Then I noticed something else. One audio file didn't have my name on it. It wasn't labeled Rachel. It wasn't labeled Ethan. It was labeled, "Do not open." And for some reason, that was the file that scared me the most. For almost a minute, I just stared at the screen. Do not open. Who names a file that? My heart was pounding. Every instinct told me to close the tablet and walk away. But after everything I'd already seen, there was no way I was stopping now. I tapped the file. The audio started. At first, all I heard was traffic. A car engine. A turn signal clicking. Then Ashley's voice. Soft, nervous. Completely different from the version of her everyone knew. I can't keep lying forever. I froze. A man's voice answered. Then tell them. Several seconds of silence. Then Ashley laughed. Not a happy laugh. The kind people make when they're scared. You don't know my family. The man sighed. Rachel deserves to know. The second I heard my name, every hair on my arm stood up. Ashley immediately responded. No, if Rachel finds out, everything falls apart. I sat there motionless, listening, trying to understand what I was hearing. The conversation continued. Piece by piece, sentence by sentence, and the picture started forming. Ashley wasn't worried about exposing me. She was terrified of being exposed herself. The man asked how much longer she planned to hide it. Ashley answered quietly, "As long as I can." Then came the sentence that changed everything. The sentence that explained why she'd spent months spreading rumors, why she'd been collecting recordings, why she'd been trying so hard to control the story. If Ethan ever learns the truth, he'll never forgive me. My stomach dropped. Ethan, my husband. Why was Ashley talking about Ethan? The man asked the same question. Ashley took a deep breath. Then she said something I never expected to hear. Something so shocking. I actually replayed it 3 times just to make sure I hadn't imagined it. When I finally understood what she'd confessed, I realized 2 things. First, Ashley had been hiding a secret for years. And second, the family dinner she was planning wasn't about exposing me. It was about making sure nobody ever discovered hers. And suddenly, I knew exactly why she was so desperate. The next morning, Ashley called me. Her voice sounded cheerful. Too cheerful, like somebody trying way too hard to act normal. "Big family dinner this Sunday," she said. "Mom wants everybody there." I already knew what that meant. This wasn't dinner. It was a stage, and Ashley was planning the performance. I agreed to come. Of course I did. By then I wasn't afraid anymore. I was curious, because now I knew something she didn't. I knew her secret. For the next few days I played along. Every text, every phone call, every family group message. I acted exactly the same. Meanwhile, Ashley kept getting more confident. You could hear it in her voice, see it in her messages, feel it every time she looked at me. She thought she was winning. She thought she had all the evidence. She thought Sunday night would finally be the moment everyone turned against me. What she didn't realize was that she'd handed me everything I needed. Then Friday afternoon something happened, something that confirmed every suspicion I had. I stopped by my parents' house to drop off a birthday gift for my dad. Ashley was already there. She didn't see me when I walked in. She was standing in the kitchen talking on the phone, laughing, bragging. And then I heard it. "By Sunday it'll be over." I stopped moving. Ashley continued. "Once Ethan hears the recording, Rachel's done." The person on the other end said something I couldn't hear. Ashley laughed again. "Trust me, nobody's gonna be talking about me after this. Nobody's gonna be talking about me." That sentence hit me like a truck, because guilty people say things like that. People hiding secrets say things like that. I quietly backed out of the hallway before she noticed me, got in my car, closed the door, and sat there staring through the windshield. Everything finally made sense. The rumors, the recordings, the setup, the family dinner. None of it was about proving I was a bad wife. It was about making sure nobody looked too closely at Ashley. She wanted the spotlight on me. Because if people started looking at her, her entire world would collapse. And on Sunday night, it was going to, whether she liked it or not. By Sunday evening, I was ready. Not because I knew exactly what would happen, but because I finally understood who Ashley really was. And once you understand someone's real motivation, they're a lot easier to predict. The dining room was already packed when Ethan and I arrived. My parents, aunts, uncles, cousins, everybody. Ashley was moving around the room like she owned it, smiling, laughing, acting relaxed. But I noticed something. She kept checking her phone. Every few minutes, like she was counting down to something, like she couldn't wait for the show to start. The second Ethan walked in, Ashley lit up. "Hey, Ethan." Too excited, way too excited. I caught Ethan noticing it too. Dinner started normally. People talked about work, sports, vacation plans, the usual stuff. But underneath all of it, there was tension. I could feel it. Ashley could feel it too, because she barely touched her food. She just kept waiting for her moment. Then finally, she got it. Dessert plates had just been cleared when Ashley stood up, and the room went quiet. Right away, almost like she'd rehearsed this. She smiled sadly. The fake kind of sad. The kind people use when they're about to pretend they're doing something noble. Then she looked directly at Ethan. "There's something you deserve to hear." My heart stayed calm, because I'd been expecting those exact words. Ashley pulled out her phone, tapped the screen, and placed it on the table, right in front of my husband. The room was silent. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Ashley folded her hands together, waiting, confident, certain. She thought she was about to destroy me. She had no idea she was about to destroy herself. Ethan looked at the phone, then looked at me, then back at Ashley. "What is this?" Ashley took a deep breath. and smiled. The truth. Then she pressed play. And for a few seconds, everything went exactly according to her plan. My voice filled the room. For a second, nobody reacted. Then the whispers started. Small at first, confused, curious, dangerous. Ashley sat back in her chair looking proud of herself. Like she'd just won a championship. The recording had been edited. Cut together, pieces of different conversations stitched into one story. Out of context, it sounded bad. Really bad. I could see people glancing at Ethan. Waiting for his reaction, waiting for the explosion. Ashley finally broke the silence. I didn't want to do this. That was a lie. But Ethan deserves to know who he's married to. Another lie. My mother looked shocked. My father looked confused. A few cousins refused to make eye contact with me, exactly what Ashley wanted. Then she looked at Ethan. Say something. The room held its breath. Ethan stared at the phone. Then at me. Then back at Ashley. Nobody knew what he was thinking. Not even me. Ashley smiled. She thought she'd won. That's when I stood up. Slowly. Calmly. And reached into my purse. Ashley frowned. Rachel? I didn't answer. I pulled out a small portable speaker and set it in the middle of the table. The entire room watched. Confused. Ashley suddenly looked nervous. For the first time all night, a tiny crack appeared in her confidence. What's that? She asked. I looked directly at her. You're recording. The color drained from her face. Instantly. What are you talking about? I connected my phone to the speaker. Ashley pushed her chair back. Not much, just enough for me to notice. The panic was starting. Good, because we were finally getting to the truth. Ethan looked between us. Rachel, what's going on? I kept my eyes on Ashley. Tell him. She didn't. Of course she didn't. Because she couldn't. Not anymore. The room had become completely silent. The kind of silence that feels heavy. Like everyone knows something big is about to happen. Ashley swallowed hard. Don't do this. There it was. Fear. Real fear. Not the fake sadness she'd been performing all night. The genuine kind. The kind people feel when they realize they've lost control. I pressed play. The speaker crackled. Then Ashley's voice filled the room. If Ethan ever learns the truth... Nobody moved. Nobody breathed. Ashley closed her eyes. Because she already knew what was coming. And this time, there was no way to stop it. The room froze. Ashley's voice echoed through the speaker. If Ethan ever learns the truth, he'll never forgive me. Nobody moved. Nobody spoke. Even the air felt different. My dad looked at Ashley. Then at Ethan. Then back at Ashley again. Confused. Concerned. Trying to figure out what he was missing. The recording continued. The man on the call spoke. You should have told him years ago. Ashley laughed nervously. The same nervous laugh I'd heard 100 times growing up. Only this time nobody else was laughing. I was going to. The man's voice came back. No, you weren't. Silence. Then Ashley answered. Softly, almost whispering. I couldn't risk losing him. Ethan frowned. My mother looked completely lost. Ashley stared at the table, refusing to look at anyone. The recording kept playing, every second making things worse. Then came the sentence that changed everything. The sentence Ashley had been hiding for years. The sentence she'd been terrified would ever come out. Ethan isn't just Rachel's husband. The room went completely silent. I mean completely. Nobody blinked. Nobody breathed. Ashley closed her eyes. And then her own voice finished the sentence. He's the man I've been in love with since college. My mother's hand flew to her mouth. My father stood up so fast his chair nearly tipped over. Across the table, Ethan looked like somebody had punched him in the chest. Ashley started crying. Real crying. Not the fake tears she used whenever she got caught. The ugly kind. The uncontrollable kind. The recording continued. The day Rachel introduced him to the family, I knew it was over. Every person in that room was staring at Ashley now. Nobody cared about the recording she'd played. Nobody cared about the rumors. Nobody cared about me, because suddenly Ashley's secret was all anyone could see. I spent years pretending I was happy for them. The room got quieter somehow. But every time I looked at Ethan, I kept wondering what would have happened if I'd met him first. Ethan looked sick. Ashley looked broken. And the worst part? The recording wasn't over yet. Because what she admitted next was even worse. And when the final truth came out, the entire family would finally understand why Ashley had spent months trying to destroy me. Nobody said a word. Ashley sat there crying. My mother was staring at her like she didn't recognize her own daughter. My father looked furious. And Ethan? He looked completely shattered. The recording continued. Ashley's voice shook through the speaker. I tried to move on. A pause. I dated other people. Another pause. But every time Rachel and Ethan got happier, I hated it. My mother's eyes filled with tears. Because suddenly all those years started making sense. The comments, the rumors, the jealousy, the strange behavior, all of it. The recording wasn't about a crush. It was about obsession. Then the man's voice returned. That's why you started recording her, isn't it? Ashley didn't answer right away, and somehow that silence was worse. Finally, she whispered, Yes. The room exploded. You what? My father shouted. Ashley flinched. The recording kept going. If Ethan ever left Rachel, the man said nothing. Ashley finished the sentence herself. I wanted him to have proof that she wasn't who he thought she was. My stomach turned, because there it was. The real reason. Not revenge. Not concern. Not family. Jealousy. Years and years of jealousy. Ashley hadn't been trying to protect Ethan. She'd been trying to break us apart. The entire family understood it at the exact same moment. My mother started crying harder. My father looked like he couldn't even find the words. Across the table, Ethan slowly stood up. Ashley looked at him. Hope flashed across her face. For one stupid second, she actually thought he might defend her. Instead, Ethan looked directly into her eyes and said, You spent years pretending to be our family. Ashley started shaking. Ethan, no. His voice was ice cold, colder than I'd ever heard before. You lied to everyone. Ashley burst into tears, but nobody moved. Nobody comforted her. Nobody rushed to her side, because for the first time, nobody believed her anymore. Then my father spoke, quietly, but somehow louder than anyone else. Get out. Ashley froze. Dad, get out. The entire room stayed silent. Ashley looked around desperately. At my mother, at Ethan, at me, at everyone. Nobody saved her. Because there was nothing left to save. The truth was finally out. And the family she almost destroyed had finally seen who she really was.